Hey, what's up? This is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to do a fight recap for Terence Crawford versus Errol the Truth Spence. Really quick, if you like the videos, please subscribe to the channel. So many things are happening in boxing, and this is a channel to get what you need from it. Also, hit that thumbs up button. It really does help and support the channel. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about a few things that happened in the fight. First and foremost, congratulations to Terence Bud Crawford, the now two-time undisputed champ of the world. He's the the first male to ever do it. So let's give him his props. And what a way to do it! Like, what a way to do it. This fight is about. Honestly, I would say it's more one-sided than Stephen Fulton versus Naoya Inoue. The only round you can give Spence is round one, but really, like, it was just touching. You know, they were just touching each other. It was nothing heavy or anything like that. Nothing to really note on either guy's side. But from 2 on out, it was Terence Bud Crawford. From 2 on out, an unbelievable job. This is boxing at its highest level. What we witnessed was boxing at his highest level. Like, just distance, smarts, ring IQ, punch selection, punch placement. Everything was just the highest level that you're going to see. And Terence Bud Crawford did it in such stride. One of the things that I kept saying while I was with the group of people that I was with watching the fight, he's so composed. He was just so composed in there. Wasn't breathing hard, like nothing. He was just so composed. His eyes were wide open. He was so alert to everything that was happening. And it's just like, you know, this is what it's all about. This is the sport of boxing. The elites fighting each other, the best of the best. What happened? Well, basically, so here's the thing. I'm going to start from round 2. From round 2, and that knockdown of Errol Spence, you know, everybody's like, well, what happened? You know, and Errol Spence said, well, my timing is off. My timing is off. I don't necessarily think it was his timing. I think if you've never been down, I think if you've never been, it is a little shocking. Like, Errol strikes me as the type of guy who's probably never been down in the gym. And if you've never been down, it's embarrassing. It's a little unrattling. He's trying to get himself together, you know. But you're doing this in front of a massive crowd, you know, and cameras. It's hard to get yourself together. Like, it's easy to keep going. He's a professional. He knows how to keep going. But it's not to say that's embarrassing, but it's something he didn't expect. It's something he didn't see coming. Obviously, he didn't envision this. So I think that first knockdown was just, it was downhill from there. Like, but I think it was more downhill mentally for Errol Spence than anything else. I just think mentally some guys get put in a place, and it's not necessarily I don't want to be here anymore. It's just doubt in yourself. We saw this in the Anthony Joshua fight when he was fighting Ruiz the first time. There was just doubt. You could visibly see doubt. And although Errol Spence continued to fight on, that's because he's a warrior, you know. But outside of that, you could visibly see doubt in him. Terence Bud Crawford, that defense, you know, he just kept his hand tucked because he knew all the fire was going to come on this side of the body. So he keeps his hand tucked, and he's just catching everything, keeps it here, catches, and he fires off. I mean, and he did it repeatedly. Like, he had Errol Spence down to a T. Like, he had been studying Errol Spence. And I don't know. I don't feel like... So here's the thing. When I made my final prediction for Errol Spence and Terence Bud Crawford, I initially made a video for Errol Spence. But in my heart, and that was like on a Wednesday, in my heart, I didn't believe Errol's going to get it done. So I never posted the video, and I'm happy I did now. So on Thursday, I made another video for Terence Crawford. And basically, I made a video. I said, all right, do I really believe this? The best way for me to find out if I believe this is if I write down everything that Errol Spence does well. And if I can write down everything that he does well, and then I can dispel that with what Crawford would do in place of it, well, then if I can convince myself, I can convince you. So that's what I did. And when I tell you, please go back and look at that prediction video, because everything that I mentioned, Terence Crawford did. The only thing that I got wrong was the round. I said round 8, and it was round 9. However, Terence Crawford had Errol Spence hurt in round 8. And if you ask me, he just let him slide, knowing that he had so many rounds to follow up with. And he was wobbly going back to his corner in round 8. So that's the only thing that I got wrong. Like, everything was what I said. I also mentioned, because everybody kept talking about Errol Spence's size. And I said, no, Terence Crawford knows how to grapple. And if you notice, Terence Crawford would just simply maneuver Errol to where he wanted to be. If he had his back toward the ropes, he would change positions with Errol Spence, and he would just maneuver him. And that's exactly what happened. I mentioned the punches that he would use. That jab, that jab, that jab. That was not a peppering jab. That was a hard, solid, straight jab that would just go straight down the pipe. And it hit Errol Spence flush every time. And I also mentioned the speed of Terence Crawford. And there was a huge speed difference between the two of them. Terence Crawford just did his thing. He also kept the distance. That's another thing I mentioned in my prediction video. He would keep the distance. It would go well if he kept his distance. But when the gap did close, that was okay. Because again, it's Terence Bud Crawford. It's punch selection. And that's when he used those body shots. It's amazing that Terence Crawford outpunched the body puncher, Errol Spence, to the body. He backed off Errol Spence with body punches. He hurt Errol Spence with body punches. I mean, it was just a phenomenal fight. And I'm sorry, whether you're a fan of Terence Crawford or not, I don't know how you can not be a fan of Terence Crawford after a performance like that. But let's just say you are. It gets no better than this. I'm sorry. It just gets no better than this. Skills pay the bills, and it gets no better than this. And the one thing I really just have to keep talking about was his composure. There's a difference between somebody who's telling himself something and someone who believes what he's hearing when he tells himself something. And Terence Bud Crawford believed everything he said to himself probably the night before about why he would beat Errol Spence. And that's exactly what happened. He went out there and he did everything that he said he would do. He did everything that he envisioned. He did everything that, because a lot of fighters mention dreams of how they would fight an opponent. And he did everything that apparently he did in those dreams and those visions to win the fight. It was a flawless victory. The performance overall, I give it an A+. An A+. I mean, anyway, versus Fulton, that was an A. And I'm like, wow, like you crushed it. But this was even better. Multiple knockdowns. And I got to give it to Errol Spence. Going out on the shield. He was really fighting back. He tried. It just wasn't getting anywhere. Part of that was because he was doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's just like, bro, you got to try something different. I'm a little disappointed in Derek James, to be honest with you. I mean, you are trainer of the year, and you didn't really have anything to give your fighter, any type of solace or anything like that, so that he can come out a little differently. And to all the people who doubted and who mocked me for the videos that I made concerning these two fighters, well, everything I said came true. And I challenge you to please watch the prediction video and then look at the fight. But on top of that, it's just, I don't know. So let me start with this. I've said multiple times, Errol Spence is a good fighter, but Errol Spence doesn't know how to adapt. I said that multiple times. I got slighted for that. Then I said, all Errol Spence does is step on the gas. I got slighted for that. It's true. In the fight, he did not adapt, not one bit. Not even with the trainer of the year in his corner, he did not adapt. And all he tried to do was step on the gas. And he even mentioned that in his post-fight interview. Well, I tried to step on the gas. I wanted to step on the gas in the later half of the fight. Because that's his adapting. Stepping on the gas. It's not adjusting. It's not trying something new. It's not coming out with a change of game plan on the fly or nothing like that. It's just, all right, well, I was going at an 8. Now I'm going to go at a 9. And if the 9 doesn't cut it, I'm going for 10. That's his adjustment. That's not true adjustment. That's just a change in gears. That's what I've been trying to say this whole time. When it comes to Errol Spence, there's no adjusting. There's none of that. Terence Crawford didn't really have to adjust. He had a game plan. He stuck to it. But if he had to, he would have adjusted. That's how he is. He's a thinking man, which is the only reason why Errol Spence got round 1. So that Terence Crawford can see in real time how Errol Spence moves. How, so he can compute what he needs to do moving forward. Another thing that Terence Crawford did was he pushed Errol Spence back. Now, we all know Errol Spence can't fight well going back, or he can't fight at all. And at the times when he was going back, he didn't throw anything, which was just, open range for Terence Crawford. Again, skills pay the bills. And again, I was never knocking Errol Spence because he doesn't adapt. But I just simply said he doesn't properly adapt. Adapting means, all right, if this isn't working, I'm going to try this. But no, when it comes to Errol Spence, you just step on the gas. Hit the gears a little bit more, and that's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it for the elites like a Terence Bud Crawford. Rematch. Does there need to be a rematch? No, there doesn't need to be a rematch. A rematch for what? Definitely not at 147. A rematch for what? And why does it just flat out no at 147? But why does there need to be a rematch at 154 pounds? Neither one of these guys are a champ at 154 pounds. And neither one of these guys moving up would be a test for the other guy at 154 pounds, meaning like you're not really trying out the weight class if you two fight again. It doesn't need to be a rematch. Obviously, it would be for money. I don't know how much money the second fight would generate simply because the first fight was such a washout. If there were more of a challenge, then yeah, I suppose we could do a rematch. But there was no challenge whatsoever. When I tell you Terence Crawford didn't have a mark on his face, when I tell you Terence Crawford fought with such ease, such composure, there was no doubt in him. There was no worry in him. Why does there need to be a rematch? Would I watch it? Sure, I'd watch it. But there doesn't need to be a rematch. I got to be honest with you. It doesn't need to be a rematch. There's more than enough guys to fight at 147, and there's more than enough guys to fight at 154. Obviously, there's people at 154. Now, this makes sense for Terence Bud Crawford because Charlo's at 154. He can wait out to see what happens between Jamel Charlo, and Canelo. And because the reality is, whether win or lose, we all know Charlo's not staying at 168. So that means he's coming on back down. So if he comes back down, well, who's going to be waiting for you? Well, listen, this is a fight of the ages. This is the only thing that's going to top Spence and Crawford, in my personal opinion, would be Jamel Charlo versus Terence Bud Crawford at 154 pounds. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. But do we necessarily need to see Spence again? No, I think Spence needs to... Listen, I think Spence should fight Jaron Boots Ennis. How about that? Work your way back up to the top. Work your way back up to the top. Why not? He's only one man down. You beat him, you would be rightfully so the man to go for those titles again. Why not? I have no issues with that. So the options, of course, for Terence Bud Crawford right now would be Charlo at 154. Boots Ennis at 147. I think he's a mandatory for the IBF, I believe. Those are some great options. Or you could, of course, take on Errol Spence again. I don't necessarily think he's the strongest option of the two. But there's also another option. Because the reality was they were pumping up this Errol Spence and this Canelo fight at some stage in time. Well, we can still get Canelo, but we would get Canelo with Terence Bud Crawford. Because now you're talking about boxing's pound for pound king and the man. Like, I'm sorry. So Terence Bud Crawford is the pound for pound king right now. I can't give it to Canelo. He shouldn't be fighting somebody who's coming up from 154. So I can't give it to Canelo. There's more than enough guys in his weight class for him to be fighting. So I can't give that to Canelo. But why not? Canelo was interested in fighting Errol Spence. Well, Terence Bud Crawford is right there. And if you beat Terence Bud Crawford, you are the man. Like, you are the man. And I think Terence Bud Crawford can move up, no problem. I said it before, size wasn't going to make a big difference. Nobody listened to me. They thought I didn't know what I was talking about. Where it turns out I know exactly what I was talking about. I knew exactly what I was talking about. And I think a Canelo versus Terence Bud Crawford fight would be amazing. Just like I think Terence Bud Crawford versus Jermell Charlo is amazing. Also, I think Drawn Boots Ennis, it's amazing. I think Boots Ennis is the least of, the likely candidates. I mean, I don't know what he's going to generate. Obviously, money fights would be Charlo. Money fight would be Canelo. And, a Spence rematch is going to be more of a money fight than Drawn Boots Ennis. But he is deserving of it since he's a mandatory, so that's the reason why I'm bringing him up. Do I think he's going to get the shot? More than likely not. Not even if Terence Crawford stays at 147, I honestly think he'll get it. Not when there's guys like Keith Thurman out there and Boots Ennis can fight him. I get it, he's a mandatory, but the reality is, at this point in time, it's about money fights for Terence Bud Crawford. Challenging fights, but nonetheless still money fights. So I don't foresee Boots Ennis getting anything. Without a shadow of a doubt, I have Terence Crawford as my pound-for-pound boxing king right now. Listen, he took on the man that was considered the boogeyman. He took on the man that a lot of people like Keith Thurman ran from. He took on the man and dispelled the myth, dispelled all these things, and, he's the boogeyman. Well, if Errol Spence was the boogeyman, I don't know. I guess Terence Crawford is the light that shines on the boogeyman, and he puts him back in the darkness. I don't know, because he easily dispelled of Errol Spence. Like, it was shocking. I actually watched the fight 3 times because I couldn't believe how easily it was done. Like, it blew me away. Like, I got emotional. I first got emotional because, like I said in my prediction video, Terence Crawford is such an underrated guy. He's never, ever gotten his props. He's never, ever gotten his respect. And to see him win, after going through all the adversity with, just trying to get fights in the past, and he was kind of stuck out of the cool club. And then to see him get this mega fight and then dominate in this mega fight, it was touching for me, and I just imagine, when Terence Crawford was asked after the fight, he said, the interviewer said, I can see you fighting back the tears, because I got to tell you, I was almost in tears for the guy, and I was also sad for Errol Spence, but I just kind of felt like on any given Sunday, Terence Crawford is going to beat Errol Spence. All right, that it is what it is. He's going to beat Errol Spence. He bested him in every way possible. You want to talk about size and strength, he bested him. You want to talk about technique, he bested him. You want to talk about punch selection, he bested him. You want to talk about distance, he bested him. You want to talk about boxing skill, bested him. IQ, bested him. Everything, he bested him. The mental challenges and the warfare, bested him. I'm sorry, Terence Bud Crawford is boxing's pound-for-pound king. And there you have it. That is my fight recap for Terence Bud Crawford and Errol the True Spence. Drop your thoughts down below. Tell me what you think. And as always, please like, please share, please subscribe to this channel.